How you doing everyone? Jordan here from SwitchWatch with today's review of Georifters. Let's see what this is all about. All I'll say so far is just don't judge a book by its cover. There's not much of a story to Georifters. You are living in the Candy Kingdom, or whatever it's called. When something is amiss, you notice crystal-like objects scattered around along with some nasty things. Dimensional rifts are also present. Being a curious player, you go off to investigate and go on a whirlwind adventure through different kingdoms with different characters to sort out this nonsense. I've got to be honest, the story was of non-importance here for me. It was fine to keep the gameplay flowing, and they did try to add some humor in here and there, commendable, but it's rather safe and predictable at times. Since I don't remember the name of the locations nor the characters' names while I'm writing this, and that kind of says it all. But let's face it, the story isn't why you'll be playing this game. The gameplay is obviously what came first in the minds of the developer. Georifters is an action puzzle platformer, and you know what? It's pretty good. Levels are divided into different rooms of sorts, each with a handful of crystals dotted around that need to be gathered up. You don't need to get all of them to progress, as many of them can be considered extra challenges, if you want to stand around and ponder how to collect them. But yeah, usually you need one or two to open the door, or even none at all. Sometimes you just need to defeat some enemies. So this game is based around the idea of manipulating the ground in order to create a path to your destination or to reach a crystal that you want to pick up. It's a very simple concept, but done so with some nice ideas. With the handful of characters, all of them can punch the block-like structures of the levels forward, but they all have different special abilities. For example, the first girl can pull a whole row of blocks towards her as though she's Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. Another dude who thinks he's Moses can part whole chunks of blocks, with 2 rows going up and 2 going down, creating a path in the middle. It's these abilities where you get creative in order to solve the puzzles or defeat enemies. Due to the differences in abilities of the characters, there's a lot of different ways puzzles can be solved, and I feel like this is one of the strongest aspects of the game. It's not rigid in the solutions. You can be creative or adventurous. Sure, some of them are more tailored to certain characters, but being able to do different things in different situations was a bit of a treat. Like I said, there are enemies here, along with a myriad of hazards. You have a health bar as well as lives. If you've gotten yourself into a bit of a pickle, it's safe to say that on occasion, this can provide a decent enough challenge. I don't think you're going to see a game over at any point, but expect a few deaths as you accidentally switch off a platform and fall into a poisonous pit or get hit by a tricky enemy placement. Interestingly, if you totally screw up moving blocks around, perhaps you accidentally destroy a crystal by punching it into a hazard, or left no way to get to the exit, you can hold down the A button to completely reform the blocks in the stage. This is very handy, especially if you're slightly overzealous with experimenting with some puzzles like I often am. So yeah, it can be tricky at times, but the game does have a lot of accessibility for those with little time or skill. There is plenty of content here. There's a surprising amount of levels and characters. You can play through levels again to pick up crystals that you missed, and even try to get a high score by doing them better. The crystals and high score can be used to unlock stuff like different costumes and even boosters for your characters, although the latter's implementation seemed a little more convoluted than necessary, too many steps for my liking. While there is a strong multiplayer aspect here, and even the publisher suggested to play with a friend in order to make the most of the game, fear not, I personally think that the main campaign fits perfectly fine in the single player. I'm sure that playing with the second player is fun too, and working together with different abilities may bring out a snipper clips kind of experience, but single player is fine, don't worry. There's even a battle mode which I really wish I could have tried more with more friends. This is actually for up to 4 people, and while I didn't have that chance, playing with one other person for a short time was fun, but I definitely didn't unwrap its full potential. From what little I had to play, I think this really could be a fun competitive time, almost having feelings of a Bomberman type game. Overall, in the gameplay experience, it's pretty great, surprisingly so. I went into this not expecting much, but the abilities and variety is actually quite compelling, and well made with plenty of content to go around. Georifters is certainly a case of don't judge a book by its cover. Visually, the game is rather unappealing to look at in terms of both the art direction and the quality of visuals presented to you. Everything is basic, flat, textures and lighting is very unsatisfying. I took one look at the screenshots and I was dreading playing this, but if you can get over the visuals, as stated in the gameplay section, it really is a decent game. Performance-wise, I didn't have any hiccups either. I would suggest that if you're playing in single player, I would highly recommend you play in handheld mode, as the low quality graphics don't stand out so harshly as they do when blown up on a big TV. The audio is pretty by the book, so much so that I'm convinced it was mostly put together from licensed music library rather than composed specifically for the game. And that's fine, indie games can do that. What's here suits the game well enough, and that's what matters. My only gripe was with the lack of sound effects in some areas. The world seemed, a little flat and empty due to the lack of effects here and there, but that is a minor complaint. In terms of value, Georifters is pushing the boundaries, I would say, coming in hot at $30 in the US, €32, and £27.50 in the UK. It's quite ambitious when looking at the competition. I do think this is a good game, and there's a decent amount of content here, as already mentioned, but I feel it could have done with being more competitively priced. Knock a tenner off and I wouldn't have minded too much. That would have been pretty nice. Perhaps if the presentation was better to give an overall, better feeling of quality, I'd have respected what they're going for, but at the minute, for digital, I would wait for a sale. However, the best aspect for me as a collector is that this is getting a physical release, but only in Hong Kong and Southeast Asia. Yes, this is not getting a physical release in Europe, North America, or Japan, but the game, as you can see, does have English, so this is going to be one of the tasty, obscure imports if you're into collecting physical Switch games like myself. If you want to pick this up physically for yourself, then there are import links below in the description and the pinned comment as to where you can find it. They are affiliate links, so any purchase that you make also helps out the SwitchWatch team massively to, keep going, doing what we're doing. Plus, as a nice little bonus for you in return, you can get 5% off your order if you use the coupon code SwitchWatchTV while checking out. That's all one word, SwitchWatchTV, for 5% off your order when checking out. Also, if you do import one, don't forget to send in a photo for our community spotlight section on Monday's scheduled videos. The digital release is set for a September 18th release, while the physical version is due October 2nd. A little bit of a delay, but not far off on the horizon. Alright, overall, as stated in the visual section, Georifters is not a game you should judge on its cover. It may not look great, but the gameplay is surprisingly satisfying if you're into a bit of puzzle action, especially with a friend in tow. The myriad of abilities and multiple solutions to the tasks at hand made this an enjoyable experience for me, even if the presentation is below par and the price a little ambitious from my point of view. I wouldn't have been too happy to pay the full price, but a little cheaper and you've got yourself a bit of a gem. It's a solidly designed game either for the single player or co-op or competitive multiplayer action. It's safe to say I was pleasantly surprised with this one, a 7 out of 10. Just wait for a sale or get it physically to keep the value. Big thanks to our executive producers, Gannicus, God of Resin, Jonathan Rumor, Brent McLean, and Dane Wilkinson, plus our other YouTube members. Big thanks for your contributions. Don't forget to like and subscribe, leave a comment, it really helps us out, and also use our links if you fancy a purchase of the physical import. Here are a bunch of our other stuff, and be sure to check them out, I'm sure you don't want to miss them. Take care.